Hello everybody, I'm back today with a brief review of Conquest of Gaul, GMT Games. It's part of the Great Battles of History series. I've been playing it for the last 6 weeks or so, or maybe even 7, I don't know, and I've made a couple of videos about my conquests and exploits, and I would like to now give a brief review of how I like the game. The game itself is your average hex and counter game. The maps that come with the game are functional. They are not particularly beautiful, but then again that's also something that I'm not necessarily looking for. The counters themselves are, in my opinion, very intuitive. It's no problem to use them. They're also very well readable. When you play these simplified GBOH rules, which is what I did, there is some information on the counters that is superfluous. So that can sometimes lead to a double take going, oh well, which of these two numbers is now the right one? But that basically lasts for about the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 turns, and then you're grand. So nothing really problematic there. The game comes with the rules, the playbook, the naval rules, the counters, the maps, and a die. The rules themselves are also available online from GMT Games, and there's also a more recent version of the playbook which I used for playing. The rules, the way they are written, are quite complex. I had started playing real war games using Infidel, and those rules, by comparison, although I wouldn't say that the game is less complex, it certainly involves less die rolling and there are fewer counters, are for some reason easier to use. I can't really put my finger on it, but I can tell you one thing: the way the command structure is explained in this particular rule set for Caesar Conquest of Gaul was really hard to understand. Even the simplified rules, the command structure there didn't really convince me. I didn't really like the way it was set up, so I actually changed it. I decided to use the Infidel activation rules, which did not really detract from the gameplay. I felt it was much nicer, much easier, and I much preferred it that way. Easier in the sense not that the game became imbalanced or the balance changed, but it was just somehow more intuitive. I've since read the RAN rules for GBOH RAN, and they are again very different from the rules for Conquest of Gaul, and also I find them more accessible. It could be, since this game was published in 1998, that since then they've changed the approach to writing rules. Maybe they brought in a different info developer, I don't know. But the rules as they are written are much better in these two games, which are much later than Conquest of Gaul. There are also a number of charts that come with the game. They are very easy to use. I just copy them so that I can actually write on them, highlight stuff. I don't want to highlight my original playbooks. I don't want to highlight any of the original materials. And basically then I place them on the table so that I don't have to flip them over. I just have different pages. So that was really easy. There are quite a lot of markers, even when you play by the simplified rules, many more than there would be in Infidel. So I had to get myself tweezers because I just couldn't pick them up, and I also hate knocking over all of those stacks. It's really annoying. So that's fine though. You'll get used to it, and there is something you can do about it, namely get tweezers. I've played various battles. I've played Lutetia, the Sabis River, the Rhine River, and Bibracte. I did not play Bay of Biscay, and I did not play Britannia. I didn't play Bay of Biscay because I wasn't interested in this whole naval thing, and I never got around to playing Britannia because then I went away for training and I didn't have time. Did I like the game? Yes, I did. I think it's a really well designed game. I like the battles that they have chosen because you can really see, you can progress as a player, because Lutetia, for example, is very simple. You just have two armies moving towards each other and killing each other. And then you have the Sabis River, which is quite complex. You've got different setups for the Romans. They are foraging. Some of them are building a fort, so it's very different. And again, you have the Rhine, which is very many units, but also again basically head bashing. I believe that the mechanics that are employed really try to, or really emulate very well, the actual idea and military doctrine that the Romans had, the supremacy that they had, superior command structure, superior weaponry, ability to rally, and so on and so forth, to really fight against and win against the barbarians whom they managed to subdue across Europe, because the Celts simply weren't professional soldiers. And I think this really comes out in the game as well, in that, you know, the Celts would have much lower route levels, although there might be many more units there, simply because they just didn't have as much discipline. And what I would like to talk about very briefly is the question of game balance, because this comes up quite often, people asking, is this game balanced? And even in the game, when you look at the simplified rules, it says heavily favors Rome, heavily favors Rome, heavily favors Rome. And there are also hints for competitive play in the playbook, saying, well, if you want to have a more balanced game, then you might try these mechanics, or you might change that, or whatever. And this is an important question for some players. It's not for me. Is the game balanced? And the answer is, out of the box, if you just take the vanilla version or the SGBOH without adjusting anything, the game is not balanced. The Roman player is most likely to win every single battle, except for the River Sabis, where it is possible to beat the Romans. And on my first play, I actually beat them as the Belgic player. I'll have to return to that one because it's a really complex one and I want to play it once more. But on my first try, and the game went on for hours, it was really a very, very long game, I managed to beat them on route points. I didn't manage to attack the wagon trains coming in, but I managed to beat them on route points. So the game, in my opinion, cannot be balanced if you're trying to get a reenactment of Roman warfare. Because the Romans, the reason why they managed to hold on to an empire for several centuries and push the boundaries of that empire and subdue everyone in the north, in Spain, in what's today France, parts of what is today Germany, in Pannonia, Greece, you know, Asia Minor, and so on and so forth, and northern Africa. The reason for that is simply that the Romans were superior. They were superior when it comes to military doctrine, when it comes to training. They all had professional soldiers. The so-called barbarians didn't. A lot of them were basically farmers who sometimes just took their farming implements when they were rallied by their tribal chief. You know, they would take their axes that they would use to fell trees to hack into Roman soldiers. And the Romans also had something which I would call military strategy. They had the idea that they were entitled to rule the world. That's doctrine. The Romans believed that they were entitled to rule the world, and that in order to do this, they were not going to export their culture. Unlike the Greeks, who didn't really think that they were going to rule the world, they didn't feel it was their place, but they did feel that they had a moral and cultural superiority. So when they started settling around the Mediterranean, they would settle not in the same territory as other peoples, but close to them, and considering themselves morally and culturally superior, which in many cases they were, they started to export their own culture and then Hellenify, if you will, the Mediterranean. The Romans decided to do it by force. And everything that the Roman army did and that the Roman rulers did, from the Senate to the later Caesars, had to do with expanding their rule and subjugating the other peoples and getting their raw materials. That's what they wanted. They wanted money, and they wanted whatever raw materials the other countries could give them. So this, of course, meant that a lot of money and a lot of time in Rome was spent on building a strong army. And as a result, and there wasn't anyone who could oppose them. They managed to wipe out Carthage, and then, Greece was only a matter of time after the death of Alexander. Rome just ascended. There wasn't anyone who could stop them. And this is why I don't think you can have a Conquest of Gaul game that can be balanced if you want historical accuracy. I believe you could have, and I don't know because I haven't played it yet, but if SPQR, if you were to have the civil wars, for example, where you have Roman legion pitted against Roman legion, I believe you would probably get a more balanced game because you have the same type of infantry, the same type of cavalry, you have the same type of military training, you have the same type of military doctrine that governs the different battles. So I would expect that to be a little more balanced. Just like you have it when you look at Greek warfare. The Greeks, when they were fighting amongst themselves, let's say the Peloponnesian War, you had Athens pitted against Sparta, and it was going on and back and forth for decades, simply because the two forces were on an equal footing. Except when they met at sea, where the Athenians were much more advanced than the Spartans, because the Spartans were a land army. Likewise, in the one or two battles, for example, when you read Tacitus, where he describes how the Germanic tribes make mincemeat of the Romans, it's because you have a Germanic war leader, in this case Arminius, who knows military doctrine, Roman military doctrine, and how the Roman military works. And he's able to turn this to his advantage by avoiding open field battle and by changing the way those Germanic tribes that were fighting with him were thinking about war. Because for them, it wasn't about, we're going to be free, and if we kick out the Romans, we will retain our freedom. It was about loot. Freedom was, some part of it, but, they wanted loot. Loot and then more loot. And there's one very important part of the battle in the Teutoburger Wald, where the Romans managed to build a camp. And when they then decided to send out all of the civilians and to burn all of the wagons that they had with them, all of the victuals that they had, all of the everything that they were carrying except their weapons, they destroyed. And the Germanic tribes saw this, and the tribe leader said, if we let them get away with this, there will be nothing to loot in the morning. We have to attack them now. And Arminius said, that's what they're waiting for. They're now ensconced in their camp. They are rallying. If we now approach them in this open field, we will be vanquished. The only way we can win is if we let them stay there for the night and then push them, and then they have to go through the forest again, and then we attack them and we push them to their limits. And he managed to persuade them. They didn't loot. There was nothing that they could loot the next day because everything had been destroyed by the Romans, but in the end, they won the battle. So again, when you look at this, I find it quite difficult to see how you could have a balanced game where both players have equal opportunities if you're playing Conquest of Gaul out of the box. And I also don't know if it's desirable, but I leave this up to you. Summary is, this is a really great game, which I enjoyed a lot. While I was playing, I really felt like I was there. The battles are really tense. So I believe that if you can pick this up, if you're into Ancients, play it. Don't be afraid by, oh, GBOH or SGBOH, it's complex. It is complex, but it's manageable. And if you don't like the command system, check out the command system for Infidel and apply that. It actually works very well. So thank you very much for watching, listening, and I'll be back with Ran in about 2 to 3 weeks. Bye!